Some relationships don't end because you've changed. They end because you stop pretending to be someone you're not. I've thought about that sentence for a long time because I lived it before I ever wrote it down. There's a particular kind of tired that has nothing to do with sleep. It comes from holding a version of yourself together through an entire evening, sometimes through an entire relationship. Someone asks, "Where'd you like to eat?" And you say, "Wherever you want. It's fine with me." Even though already you know exactly what you want. You laugh because everyone else does. You leave the conversation, get into the car, and somewhere on the drive home, you replay every single word you didn't say. And it's not because you forgot it, it's because you swallowed it on purpose. For years, I stood beside people in the minutes before their anesthesia. I've seen it over and over again. A woman lies on the operating room table, tense and afraid, before the final moments of induction approach. I gently take her hand and lean close enough for her to hear only my voice. "You're safe. We're going to take very good care of you." Almost immediately, her shoulders soften, her jaw relaxes, and slowly the tightness in her face begins to fade. Nothing about the surgery has changed. The room's the same, the procedure's the same. What changed was what her body experienced in that moment. Feeling genuinely cared for allowed her nervous system to release the tension it had been holding. For a few moments, she no longer had to hold everything together on her own. Sometimes all it takes is one person who feels steady and reassuring for the body to soften. It reminds me that much of the tension we hold isn't only from the moment we're in, it's all the moments that came before it. Most of us began learning how to hold ourselves together when we were very young. Little by little, we adjusted. And it's not because we were dishonest, but because we were trying to stay connected to the people we loved. And sometimes that meant hiding parts of ourselves that didn't seem welcome. When I was 13, I made myself a vow. When I got married, I would never fight with my husband. And I meant it with everything in me. I never wanted my children to grow up hearing the same kind of violent, frightening arguments I had lived through. Years later, I kept that promise, but not in a healthy way. Instead of learning how to disagree with honesty and respect, I learned how to disappear. I became agreeable, easygoing, whatever it took to keep the peace. And it wasn't because I had nothing to say. Whenever I tried to bring up something that mattered to me, my husband would often say, "I didn't start this." The conversation usually ended before it ever really began. I believed I was protecting my sons from conflict. It took me years to understand that I wasn't protecting my marriage. I was protecting myself from feelings I never wanted to experience again. Only later could I see that avoiding conflict, it didn't protect our relationship. It slowly created more distance between us. And by the time I found my own voice, there wasn't enough of the relationship left to rebuild. And we eventually divorced. I believed I was protecting my sons from conflict. Looking back, I realized They didn't have the opportunity to see two people work through a difficult conversation with honesty, respect, and love. I wish they had. For decades, I became someone who looked calm on the outside while quietly leaving pieces of myself behind. Quieter in one room, funnier in another, and easier to be around wherever I went. At the time, I called it flexibility. When I stopped doing that, some relationships changed and many ended. It cost me more than I ever imagined, but it also became the beginning of coming home to myself. And here's what nobody tells you about that kind of adjusting. It doesn't happen all at once. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to become someone else. It happens quietly. You decide not to say what you're really thinking. An apology before you've even finished speaking. I'm fine. Slips out because it feels easier than actually telling the truth. None of it seems important at the time. And then one day you realize those small moments have been shaping who you've become. That's the part that catches people off guard. It's not the loss of a relationship necessarily. It's the loss of being able to tell your own voice apart from one you've built just to get along. I remember a dinner where someone at the table asked me a direct question, and I gave the answer that would keep things calm instead of the answer that was true. Nobody noticed. That evening went on exactly as it had. And I sat there with the real answer still unsaid, wondering if anyone ever noticed. That's usually how it goes. The edit is so practiced, it doesn't look like anything is missing. Only you know something didn't make it into that room. Every once in a while, you meet someone who doesn't require any of that from you. You say the honest thing, and they don't flinch. You disagree, and the room doesn't tilt. Your shoulders come down without you deciding to lower them. That relief tells you something. It tells you how much you'd been holding everywhere else. I don't think that goal was ever to become a different person. I think the goal was to stop living from the places that convinced you that you had to. Some relationships were built for the edited version of you. That's a hard thing to admit, and it's even harder thing to feel. When you stop performing, a few of those relationships won't hold, and it hurts deeply. There's no pretending it doesn't. But a connection that only stays together because you keep making yourself smaller was never really holding you. It was holding the performance. Grief and relief can live in the same place, and both deserve room. You can miss what a relationship used to be while also recognizing that what it used to be required you to disappear a little more each year. Those two feelings aren't in competition. They're both true at once, and neither one of them cancels the other out. The people who truly know you, they don't need the edited version. They recognize you without it. I'd like you to think of one place in your life where you go quieter than you actually feel. It might be a conversation you've had often or a relationship you've had for years. You don't need to change anything about it today. You don't have to judge it. Just notice it. Notice the moment right before you edit, the half second where the real answer and the easy answer both exist, and you reach for the easier one. That half second matters. It's usually where the choosing happens. Healing isn't becoming someone new. It's no longer living from the places that taught you to become someone else. The past may explain why you learned to become who you didn't need to be. It doesn't have to decide who you become from here. Before we close, I want to share why I usually ask you to hum with me here. Humming sends a small vibration through your throat and chest. And that vibration is one of the simplest ways to invite your body to slow down. You don't have to do it perfectly, and you don't have to do it for long. Even a few seconds on your own, in your own time, can help your breath slow and your body to settle. Just let your breath slow now. Allow your face to relax. Good. This is the last video in our 4-week conversation, and I want to thank you for staying with me through it. During these past 4 weeks, we've talked about why relationships can hurt in familiar ways. We've noticed the feelings that keep returning even when we wish they wouldn't. We looked at what our relationships quietly reveal about us. Today, we came back to something deeper. What happens when you stop leaving yourself behind? This isn't something you finish once. It's something you return to, one small moment at a time. Every time you choose to stop leaving yourself behind, you're taking another step toward coming home to yourself. Heal gently, one moment at a time. Your body, it already knows how to heal. It's just waiting for you to listen.